Okay, hello everybody. This is the end of our second day, just a session of question and answer. I have one question in hand, so if you have any interest in going deeper on these things, please questions. We'll go ahead and start with the question that I have in hand, which is kind of an interesting question that takes us into what we'll be talking about tomorrow. With me here is Louise Obar and Abdallah Sami, and Lindsay Campbell will be here in a moment. So you've got four of us here. Kate's here also, but she's being shy and working on her dissertation. Okay, so the question that's been sent to me by Elkin Noguera Urbano is that the ecology and biogeography in the relationship of pathogens, hosts, and environments are not similar. So how can we simplify that relationship to improve our niche models? So that's a really good question. And I'm going to kind of recast it a little bit in terms of some of the things we'll talk about tomorrow. Certainly one way that we can simplify these relationships is to fold them all into a box and not look at that box. So for example, we could build models simply based on the outcome of these transmission systems. We could just build our models based on human disease cases. And in some sense, that includes all of the complexity of what the pathogen is doing, what the vector is doing, what the hosts are doing, and we build just very simple models that relate cases to environments. And that's certainly a feasible approach. In fact, in many cases, that's the only thing that you can do. So for example, we talked about Ebola and Marburg. We really have almost no information about where Ebola and Marburg are, except when they happen to jump into unfortunate humans. And so we can call that a black box approach. We'll talk more about that tomorrow. And that has advantages and disadvantages. As Elkin said, it simplifies the relationship. We have one phenomenon that we're building a model to replicate instead of 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. It has disadvantages as well. For example, we might have a system that has the appropriate host and has the appropriate vector. The thing that's missing is the introduction of the pathogen. And no, there's no risk right now of transmission of that pathogen in that place. But if that pathogen gets imported, the system is primed for ready transmission, just like we're seeing in the Americas right now with chikungunya. The Dominican Republic, in the past 6 months, has generated more than 400,000 cases of chikungunya. And so, no, a year ago, the Dominican Republic had 0 risk of chikungunya transmission. But all that was missing was that virus. It was imported into the system, and immediately there was transmission. Any thoughts, Luis or Abdallah?
Oh, you did a very good words of questions.
I guess that a simple way to learn from one disease is identify one key actor in the system and just try to learn about it. Maybe that could be another approach too.
Yeah, certainly there may be key actors that do most of the, and if we know enough about a system, that's a very good point, that we may be able just to pay attention to one or build a lot of our knowledge on a detailed understanding of one of those actors. That's going to depend on how much we know about the transmissions. Okay, I'm not seeing questions from our audience. Abdallah, Luis, any comments or questions among you all?
No comments.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then, everybody, tomorrow we will be doing the following. Tomorrow we will, let's see, that's Wednesday. We're going to do kind of a quick overview of niche modeling. We'll talk about some of the really important details in the process. Talk about translating between niche models and risk maps. And then perhaps most importantly, we'll talk about evaluating risk maps. Essentially, you can build a model for anything. Does the model have predictive power? That's a question. And we have to test that before we put our models to any use. So that'll be a very important set of questions. And then we will go on to questions and answers. And I hope we get questions and answers from you because I want you to make the most of this week. On Thursday, we're going to go through a bunch of worked examples, essentially a series of case studies where we look at essentially how can we build these models and what have people done with these models in very different situations. So that's the next 2 days. Tomorrow is going to be intensive. So please pay attention to the schedule, and we're going to be moving pretty quickly tomorrow. So be watching, and we will see you tomorrow. Thank you very, very much.